What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Third Line Jawn Flyers post-game show. Yeah, the Philadelphia Flyers lose a tough one here today up at the Windy City in Chicago, Illinois, as the Blackhawks win 7-4 over the Philadelphia Flyers on this Sunday afternoon here in South. Yeah, just one of those games that the Flyers could have had in the tank, obviously, but there was a lot of scoring in this game, but before we get any further, I'm your host, James Scores, a flying solo with you here tonight as we always get ready for this. This game was basically one of those games that the Flyers looked like it was a good first period. It looked like a couple good periods for the Flyers, but it looked like somehow in some way it just got the worst out of them. So, yeah, like I mentioned, the Flyers lose again tonight, 7-4, and now they have lost a lot of games on this road trip, going back to the last couple games. I would have thought this would have been a game that the Flyers would be getting back on track here today after a good game yesterday up in the Big D in Dallas against the Stars. But, yeah, there's a lot to get to, and there's a lot of scoring here, so I guess we can just go right into it. So, it started out good for the Flyers early, as we always check out like we always do, and a good possibility of the Flyers getting back on track here. And the first goal of the game came in early on in the first couple minutes of the game, as it was kind of a fluky shot, kind of a weird bouncer in front, and I guess it kind of like trickled through the goal line, and also just somehow in some way, I could have thought that Travis Konechny got credit for the goal, but they said they gave it to Jamie Drysdale, and he opened the scoring for the Flyers to give an early 1-0 lead for the guys. And you would have thought that would have been a good period for the Flyers, but right back though. But here's the thing about it too that made it even more. I would say that was probably a very good start for the Flyers because it's been a while since the Flyers have scored a goal on the very first couple minutes of the game. It was a but you would have thought this would have probably been the period that thinking, okay, the Flyers had momentum and had more and more momentum. But the thing about it was just like it was a crazy period. So that was only the first of many goals in the period. So 6 goals altogether in that first period. The second one came in, and it was a shot by, and then I talked about this on the post-game show earlier, as it was Pat Maroon, who basically was a Flyer at one point and announced I think he announced either yesterday or a couple days ago that he was announcing that he was going to retire at the end of the season. So, so apparently Pat Maroon got credit for the goal, and even like Jim Jackson and Brian Boucher alluded to in the broadcast that, I mean, even though he was a Flyer that could have been a Flyer, could have been a great Flyer here, I mean, still I think he still has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, to say the least, about what happened there. So he tied the score up at 1 after Jamie Drysdale made it happen and all that. And the thing that makes it even more, the thing about Maroon that I kind of found interesting and even more so is that he is retiring at the end of the season, but he has had a great career, and he's just had some good opportunities in this game. And so Pat Maroon tied the score up at 1-1 as it got closer and closer to the end of the period, but the Blackhawks came back just a couple minutes later, and this time it was Joey Veleno, the former Detroit Red Wing. I think it's the same guy, but he gave Chicago a 2-1 lead. This one was an opportunity that the Flyers had some good opportunities in this period, but the difference was it was Veleno just right after Pat Maroon tied the score up at 1, gave the Blackhawks a 2-1 lead. And you would have thought, okay, that would have been the end of the first period after 2. It was a 2-1 lead. The Flyers had some opportunities and here and there, and you would have thought, okay, maybe just going into the period. But the good news about it too is that after it was right after that, the Flyers tied the score up at 2-2. And they made and it was a good opportunity for the Flyers to respond there, and they had a very good chance once and a very good opportunity here and there. And right when the Flyers tied the score up at 2-2, it was still. I'm just saying right now, it was a crazy first period. I think it was probably one of the craziest periods I ever seen from a Flyers team, probably going back to a while, because before, the Flyers would score many, many goals in the first period. This was like probably, I could have sworn it was going to be one of those like 9-8 games or probably 8-7. But it was the Flyers recapturing the lead, and it was Bobby Brink early on or later on in the first period, and right after that gave the Flyers a 3-2 lead. And so the Flyers had some opportunities right there and a good observation of what they were trying to do. So the thing about it too is that you would have, like I said, you would have thought that this period would have been okay, like 3-2 would have been the final score in majority of the games that the Flyers have played. But it wasn't the case once again for the Flyers. Once again, the good thing about it too, there was a lot of good opportunities in this period. But right when the Flyers had a 3-2 lead, it was once again Chicago tying the score up at not 2-2. I would have thought it would tied up at 2 at the end of one period, but no, it was Connor Bedard getting credit for the goal again, and this time he beat it. Ivan Fedotov yet again, and once again the Blackhawks tied the score up again at 3-3. And the most important thing about this period is that the Flyers had some opportunities along with the Blackhawks had so many opportunities. And the funny fact is, I'll try to get into that as we recap this game more and more. But the scoring kept on coming into a frenzy for the Flyers and for the Blackhawks. So the second period came around. So the second period we go, and it was the Blackhawks retrieving the lead and also recapturing the lead. And it was Tyler Bertuzzi and Bertuzzi right then and there. It was a history-making goal. I think he had his 200th point in that period to make it a 4-3 Chicago lead. So the thing that really stuck out to me the most was even when the Blackhawks had the lead and all that. I think the other thing that was kind of a little bit of a head scratcher because of what the Flyers were looking like, and especially giving up 3 goals in the first period, and then the second period kind of looking like the same as it was in the first period came around, and after the first period, after giving up 3 goals, Chicago will get the first goal to open the period to make it a 4-3 lead, and they were recapped, and then the Flyers would not tie the game. You would have thought they would have tied the score like they did the last period, but it was Ryan Donato getting his first of 2 goals on the game and will make it a 5-3 lead. So this was like later on in the second period that the Flyers try to get back with momentum, but this was the big story of the game that I really took out of it. So the Flyers were down 5-3 at this point. And the thing that it was really, I guess the one thing I was really concerned about was just like how many opportunities that the Blackhawks had in this game. And I thought they had some good opportunities in this game too, were the Flyers too. But usually half the time, I mean, this is one of those things that could happen a lot more than once. So this is like something that just say, okay, maybe what we have to do is try to get back some momentum here. And speaking of momentum, the good thing about it too was that was a real positive that I put out on this score sheet that John Tortorella actually called a timeout for some reason. And actually, the rare occasion is that John Tortorella tried to calm the team down a little bit after the team was down 5-3, and it kind of I thought it would start to light up a spark a little bit for the Flyers. I thought they played that second period well, but I thought they could have played better with it. But right after John Tortorella called a timeout for the Flyers, it was I think it was just a couple minutes, not like just a few minutes later. I think it was probably a minute or two later that Travis Konecny got on the board for the Flyers, and right then and there, the Flyers had to cut the deficit to a 5-4 lead. And you would have thought, okay, now they're going to get momentum back here. And even Jim Jackson and Brian Boucher said this is kind of like Peter Laviolette, what he did back in the day in that game against Boston when he tried to calm down the team. And then after that, like that timeout that Laviolette did in that 2010 Eastern Conference semifinal game against Boston in Game 7, it was kind of like the similar effect there. And it was kind of like the same kind of thing, too, that Brian Boucher alluded to in the broadcast, speaking of that 2010 team, that it was kind of like that. There was a lot of high scoring. There was a high scoring game like it was in Game 1 of the 2010 Stanley Cup Finals when the Flyers took on Chicago. But the difference was this wasn't Patrick Kane or, like I mentioned, Jonathan Taze, even like a Dustin Bufflin or even Christopher Stieg on this team. So TK got on the board to make it to give the Flyers a 5-4 lead. But right back, though, came Chicago again. And after that would have been the last time the Flyers would score on this day, as it was the Blackhawks taking back their 2-goal lead. And it was Ryan Donato yet again to give the Chicago Blackhawks a 6-4 lead. And I guess that was going to stay that way. I don't know if it was they got one more goal at the end of the second period or at the end or probably it was in the third period. But well, actually, no, it was in the second period. That's right. So it was a 6-4 lead at the end of after 40 minutes in the books, and then Chicago would get one more out of it. It was Lucas Reichel to give the Blackhawks a 7-4 lead, and that's how all the scoring came in about, because after that, they just chew clock was the Blackhawks and the Flyers. And yeah, there was a lot of scoring in this game, so I might just have to take a breather here and just try to recap this game. So yeah, the Flyers, like I mentioned, losing again 7-4 here in this game here today in in Chicago rather. So they go now to Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs on Tuesday night now when they take on the Maple Leafs. So let's get into the recap of this game. So as you may know, the Flyers had the opportunities when they were needed to. They played very well to competition, and two of the games that played very well for them in Dallas, and again on Thursday night after being down 3-0 against the Capitals in Washington. But this was a game that I thought maybe this will be a game that they can finally get something going here in this road trip. And the thing about it too that really kind of surprised me the most was, I think it was just like it felt like the Blackhawks were just a better team out of it today. I thought it was one of those things that I really thought that the Flyers, like I said, I'm kind of shocked that the Flyers will give up 7 goals to a Blackhawks team that doesn't have any identity of what they're going to look like. But they're going to be a few years away from being a few years away. But yeah, I really thought that this game I thought this game could have been easier said than done for the Flyers. I could have thought that this would have been a lot better game for them after a disappointing outing yesterday when the Flyers gave up, or the Flyers had a very good first period, and then the second and third were better for the Flyers, but then 9 seconds into the overtime after tying the score, Dallas tied the game. They actually won the game 9 seconds later to win that game up in Dallas. But yeah, this was one of the games I really thought that it would have been a better game for the Orange and Black. But the other thing, too, is just that sometimes, it's just either that it was your day or sometimes it's not your day. But and the other thing, too, about Ivan Fedotov, this is actually, I was surprised to see Fedotov in there. I would have thought it was Sam Mercer going to be a goal today. But yeah, Fedotov got the goal, got the nod again for the Orange and Black here today. So after yesterday giving up the overtime goal 9 seconds into the overtime, played right back into a back-to-back. And I can understand it, probably playing a goaltender back-to-back games could probably tell a little bit of fatigueness, and that's probably why he gave up 7 goals here today in this game. But that's probably one of the things that I take out of this game is that, sure, you're looking to try to see what you have in store with the youngsters like the Fedotovs and even like Sam Merson, or maybe like if you bring it just to see what Kolosov has in store probably next year or so, or what he's going to look like down in the minors with the Phantoms right now. But the other thing too that the one thing that was really, it was actually the one thing I actually can tell that was probably the MVP of the game. But I think it was more that it was probably, I thought it was going to change the momentum of the game, that when John Tortorella called the timeout, and I thought, okay, now the Flyers, like I was basically saying when the Flyers were like really desperately looking for answers, and the last couple of times in many of the games, like obviously with Carolina, and the list goes on and on with that game against Carolina last Saturday, and they lost 5-0. But maybe this is probably one of the games that you could just say, okay, now, Chicago came and just played a very good game today. So like I said, I'm not just one guy that's going to sit here and say that the Flyers played a bad game. Look, this was one of the games that could have been easier said than done. I thought they could have played a lot better than they did. just Chicago to me today, just giving up 7 goals to Chicago is a little bit of a head scratcher. But then you have to realize it too. You have to realize the factor is that this was Ivan Fedotov's second game of a back to back. I can understand like playing 2 games in a matter of 24 hours is could tell you all you need to know about what they're going to look like. Just like I can understand that too, but I wish that somehow in some way that the Flyers, even though when they had that timeout called and they made it a 5-4 lead, I thinking okay now they'll probably get a little bit of momentum back. That John Tortorella was what John Tortorella was trying to do in that timeout. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what they'll look like come on Tuesday night when they take on Toronto and again against Montreal on Thursday night. I thought it was Florida for some reason, but it was Montreal coming into town on Thursday on a busy schedule night in the Philadelphia area. You got the Phillies that day. I think the Sixers play that night, and I think it's the Flyers playing that night too. So it will be a little bit it'll be interesting to see what those 3 teams look like that day. But all right, let's get into our grades of the game. So let's see. It's kind of weird to see the Flyers, even though they had a good first period and they gave up like a few more goals after that against Chicago. But I got to give this team probably a C- because the way they played in that second and third period was like I guess it was just more like they try to figure out what they were made of and try to figure out what they're capable of. I guess the grade for me was what I thought when John Tortorella. I'll bring up the John Tortorella timeout one more time here. So the thing that I thought it was going to be the momentum of the game was when Torts did call that timeout. I was thinking, okay, maybe the Flyers will get a little bit of momentum here and try to try to tone down, try to make them breathe a little bit and try to figure out, okay, now we're back into this game. Okay, now we just need a goal here, and all we need is just to play our game and play to the capability of what they're going to play to. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. Right after the Flyers made it a 5-4 lead, and Blackhawks came back. The Blackhawks later came and made it a 6-4 lead, and then, like I said, they made it a 7-4 lead at the beginning of the third period. So it will be something. It will be something interesting to see what they look like on Tuesday and Thursday night. But I mean, yeah, I just wish this team. I just wish this was a better game to recap today. And you would have thought, okay, maybe the Blackhawks, like after playing Chicago, you would have thought, okay, maybe they'll get a little bit of momentum. But I'm not disappointed, but I'm kind of annoyed that they lost the way they did here today because it's just like, the Blackhawks were not a team that were like really lighting it up. I mean, they're literally like one of the last teams in the NHL right now, probably looking for a draft pick. And I would have thought, okay, maybe this will be a game to get back on track here and try to get back on track what they're looking for. And yeah, it was just it was one of those games that I never thought I would say this about a team that looks like they're on the outside looking in. But I look at the Blackhawks and I say to myself, okay, maybe this will be a game that will finally break the camel's back and just say, okay, Chicago's not that good. So maybe this. I wasn't gonna say this was gonna be an easy win for them, but I would have thought after they gave up 3 goals in that first period and even having a 3-2 lead, I was thinking, okay, now they got momentum on their side, and then giving up 7 to Chicago, I felt like I saw a rerun of this, like with the Jonathan Tays and the Patrick Kanes of the Blackhawks, and just continue to score goals, but they weren't there. I didn't know Jeremy Roenick was there in Chicago, but I was thinking, yeah, kind of felt like they were all there today, like the Canes and the Tays, even like Jeremy Roenick, and the list goes on and on. Even like it's just I didn't expect this game to go the way it did, but it's one of those games I would have expected that could have been easier said than done. But yeah, it's just like I said, the Flyers lose again 7-4 here today, so there'll be something to keep a close eye on as we get closer and closer to the end of the season and see what they're going to be made of come when the draft hits. So let's get into our MVP of the game before we get out of here. So I would just I would clarify here to say if the Flyers did have momentum in this game here today, this would have been a great comeback by the Flyers. I'd say this would have been an easier set than done, but hang on a sec. Okay, here we go. So for me, I think the other thing that I took out of this game here today is that there wasn't a lot of MVP in this games, but if I had to probably pick one, maybe I have to pick maybe one or two. Um, I probably have to go with maybe like Jamie Drysdale as one, but maybe like on the other side, probably a Blackhawk like Tyler Bertuzzi, or maybe like a probably another player that played very well in this game here today. The goaltenders look like they played very well too, but giving up 4 goals in the first period, especially for the Flyers' sake, and giving up giving up 4 goals in the first period, and also giving up 7-0 again plus 3 like in the second and third period. I mean, that's not how you're going to win games in this day and age, but it will be interesting to see what they look like. I mean, you think about it too, is that obviously this Flyers team is a different team than they once were a few years ago. But maybe this was probably fatigueness. Maybe it was a little bit of fatigue in the way what they were trying to do. So, I mean, yeah, it could have a big part of it, especially playing back-to-backs and even seeing Fedotov play the way he played today. I wouldn't say he didn't play like crap, but I would understand why he gave up 7 goals today. I would understand why that yesterday he was in goal yesterday, and I would understand why he was in goal today. So giving up like 7 goals in a matter of 7 goals today and also 5 yesterday. So, I mean, I would understand that you're kind of trying to figure out what you're made of with your goaltender. I mean, I don't know if Sam Ersson, like, I don't know if it was like, I don't know if they had like, I mean, it was kind of weird to see that they wouldn't play Sam Ersson today, but I'm actually kind of glad. But at the same time, I mean, it's just the goaltenders that they have in this day and age. I mean, just seeing how they played very well against how Chicago played very well against the Flyers was kind of strange in this game. But yeah, I mean, it's probably one of those games, and I guess that's probably the epitome of about how good how the Flyers are. The Flyers are a few years away, and also you look at what Chicago's been doing. I mean, I thought this game could have been a lot better game for the Flyers, but yeah, like I said, it wasn't the best game that the Flyers played today, but maybe they'll bounce back on Tuesday. They'll probably bounce, or Thursday night, or they got a couple games on the slate coming up after this game here today. So that'll be something to look forward to seeing, especially what they look like in this game here today too. Okay, let's get and the last thing I'll say about this too, I thought Chicago played very well today. I thought they played a great job here today. But they got a lot to build on, so the Flyers got a lot to build on too. So that's something to remind ourselves what they look like in the next few weeks or so, and also what they're going to look like in the draft come June. So it'll be interesting to see what the Flyers and Blackhawks look come draft time, when the Flyers have 7 picks in the matter of the first 2 rounds and whatever Chicago has in their first couple rounds, and see what they do with the draft too along the way as well. All right, before we get out of here, we're going to recap the NHL games around the National Hockey League on this Sunday afternoon of NHL action here. So, a couple games going final right now here in Chicago. A couple games going final right now. As you notice, the Flyers lose again tonight, 7-4 against the Blackhawks over at United Center. Right now, it's the Sabres winning 5-3 over the Jets. That's a final right now. A couple games going on right now at 6 o'clock on this Sunday night. The Panthers taking on the Penguins. That's starting at 6, along with the Blues and the Preds. Lightning taking on the Golden Knights. That's set for 8 o'clock tonight. That's the second of a back-to-back for the Golden Knights, and back-to-back games. I think they won last night over the Red Wings in that game on Sunday night, excuse me. Hurricanes taking on the Ducks later on tonight. That's an 8 o'clock puck drop. And to close out the night, it will be the Kings taking on the Bruins. And tomorrow night, it will be a couple games going on the Monday night slate here. So the Flyers will have a day off, and then they'll be back at it again on Tuesday night against Toronto, up in Toronto to close out the road trip, Blue Jackets taking on the Islanders. That is set for 7:30. Canucks and Devils, that is set for 7:30. Wild taking on the Stars. That's set for 8 o'clock. And to close out the night, Detroit is in Utah to take on, I forget that's right, they don't even have a name, but the Utah Hockey Club. So that's a 9 o'clock puck drop here that's going to be a 9 o'clock puck drop. So that's Sunday the Sunday NHL games and also the NHL games that are going on tomorrow night as well. Well, so much for everything that happened in this game here today, but this is the last time I'll probably see you guys on the post-game show. We are switching gears and we're going to move one step closer to, Pat's got you covered for the Sixers later on tonight, so I guess that's coming up sooner rather than later. So this is probably the last time you'll see me unless you guys are associated with, unless you'll see me back on Hockey Night on Broad Forest pregame show. So this has been fun. I gotta say, I really do enjoy. I had a fun time enjoying this. Not just because it's obviously the Forest playing games some of the games that were fun to watch this year. Yeah, and some of them were pretty shaky like this one today, but this was a lot of fun here. Hopefully this becomes something new and something better in the process, and also not something new, but hopefully something new for me as I continue to grow my career and also grow everybody else's career. Just want to say thank you to everybody that chimed into the post-game shows a lot. I want to thank everybody who commented on the show, also listen to the show and everything about that too. So I really do appreciate how much this actually became something for me this year. So we're not saying goodbye for now. This is only just basically a farewell to the Flyers post-game shows this season until then. But I will be back very, very soon, hopefully, to recap some Philly stuff with you guys. Because the Phillies start up in a couple weeks. Actually, no, not a couple weeks, a couple days from now. So we have 4 more days left until the Phillies open their 2025 MLB season. And I would be pretty sure we'll be talking about that as we get closer and closer to that upcoming new season. But now I just want to say to everybody out there, to my great colleague, to Pat Bernard for producing all the time, Joey Marks, Pavel, everybody that was included here on these Forest post-game shows. Just want to say thank you for making this show more comfortable for me and also make me even more understandable, and especially the viewers of the audience that chimed in every single week. You guys made it happen here today. Not made it happen today, but made it happen and many, many times before. I wish we had a better outcome today to talk more positivity. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for everybody for chiming in, and also thank you for making the post games, make them into something this year, because you guys have become you guys actually are making my career a lot more easier said than done. But until then, until we see each other again, now for everyone behind the scenes and for everyone that made it work here, now for Pat Bernard, for Joey Marks, and for Pavel, and for everybody else here on this Third Line Jawn Forest post-game show, I'm your host, James Squizza, saying thank you for watching, everybody. I will hope to see you guys very, very soon, and for the Phillies pre- and post-game stuff, and also hope to see you guys soon, probably next year when the Flyers get ready for an upcoming 2026 season. Until then, I'm James Squizza saying thank you for watching, and we will see you again, whatever, and we'll see you next time, and we'll see you on the other side.